She smiled while her mother's coffin was being lowered into the ground. And in that moment, I knew my daughter wasn't who I thought she was. My name is Robert Sullivan. I'm 62 years old, and I buried my wife and my son on the same day.
I've buried people before. My parents. A few old friends. You think you understand grief after that. You think you're prepared. You're not. Nothing prepares you for standing between two graves, watching everything you love disappear into the earth, while 200 people around you act like you're the reason they're down there. That's what it felt like. The desert wind cut through my suit as I stood there in silence. No one came near me. No one offered condolences. No one even looked me in the eye. They whispered instead. I heard it. Every word. He lost everything. Gambled it all away. Poor Catherine. I didn't understand. I'd never gambled a day in my life. Not once. But the way they looked at me, it didn't matter what was true. To them, I was already guilty. Then I saw her. Victoria. My daughter. She stood across the graves, perfectly composed. Not a tear on her face. Not even an attempt to hide it. Just watching, calculating. And then, just for a second, she smiled. Not wide. Not obvious. Just enough. Just enough for a father to know. Something inside me broke right there, but something else replaced it. Something colder. Before I could even process it, she started walking toward me. Slow. Controlled. Like she already owned the moment. Dad, she said softly, almost like she cared. We need to talk about the will. I stared at her. We just buried your mother. Exactly, she replied without hesitation. There are things that need to be handled immediately. That was the moment I realized. I didn't recognize my own daughter anymore. An hour later, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, listening to my entire life being erased. Everything went to her. The company, the house, the accounts, every asset Catherine and I had built over 34 years. Gone. And me. I got a shack in the middle of nowhere. And a message. A recording in my wife's voice. Accusing me. Of destroying our family. Of reckless decisions. Of financial ruin. Of gambling away millions. I sat there frozen, listening to the woman I loved rewrite my entire life. It sounded like her. It was her voice. But it wasn't her. I knew it. I felt it. But facts don't matter when the dead speak against you. Victoria leaned forward after the recording ended. You have 72 hours, she said calmly. Pack your things and leave. I looked at her like she was a stranger. You're my daughter, and I'm protecting what's left of this family, she replied. There was no emotion in her eyes. None. I signed the papers, not because I believed them, but because I understood something in that moment. I wasn't fighting my daughter anymore. I was surviving her. 3 days later, I was driving through the desert, heading toward a place my wife had never mentioned in 34 years of marriage. Whispering Pines. It didn't make sense. Nothing made sense anymore. But one thing kept replaying in my head. A text from my son. Dad, I found something. We need to talk. I never called him back. 6 hours later, he was dead. The cottage looked like it had been abandoned for decades. Paint peeling. Windows cracked. Roof sagging. This was my inheritance. This was where my life had led me. I stepped inside expecting nothing. But what I found changed everything. A gun sitting on the table. Clean. Loaded. Waiting. And for a moment, I understood why. I was alone. My wife was gone. My son was gone. My daughter had erased me. 6 bullets felt like a solution. Simple. Final. I sat on the edge of the bed, gun in my hand, thinking about how quiet everything would become. No more questions. No more pain. No more betrayal. I raised it. closed my eyes. And then, I smelled it. Silver sage. Catherine's flower. Soft. Familiar. Impossible. I lowered the gun slowly. That scent led me to the closet. And inside, something that shouldn't have existed. A living plant. Fresh. Alive. In a dead house. And beneath it, a box. Inside that box, a message. 4 words. Don't trust the will, trust this. My hands started shaking. For the first time since the funeral, I felt something different. Not grief. Not anger. Clarity. I found the laptop. Barely working. Dying battery. But it turned on. And what I saw destroyed whatever remained of my old life. Files. Dozens of them. Financial records. Transfers. Shell companies. All tied to one name. Victoria. My daughter hadn't just lied. She had stolen millions. For years. And then I found the videos. And everything got worse. She wasn't just a thief. She was something else entirely. Something I couldn't even process as a father. I watched her plan it. Cold. Precise. Like it was business. Not family. Not blood. And then I understood. My wife and son didn't die in an accident. They were murdered. By her. I sat there in silence, staring at the screen, while the truth settled into my bones. Everything made sense now. The will. The accusations. The exile. She didn't just want the money. She wanted me gone. And then, I heard it. Gravel. Footsteps. Outside. I looked through the window. And my blood ran cold. She had found me. And suddenly, this wasn't about truth anymore. This was about survival. Marcus stepped out of the car like he had all the time in the world. That calm, casual walk, like he wasn't about to decide whether I lived or died. I stayed completely still, barely breathing, watching his shadow stretch across the dirt as the headlights cut through the darkness. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It had slowed. That kind of slow that comes right before something breaks. My phone vibrated in my hand. A message. From Victoria. Don't run, Dad. You're too tired for that. I stared at the words, my thumb hovering over the screen. Then another message came. You always were predictable. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because for the first time in days, I realized something important. She thought she knew me. She thought she had already won. That was her mistake. Outside, Marcus reached the front door and knocked once. Not hard. Not urgent. Just certain. Robert, he called out. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. That voice. That same voice that once asked me for my blessing to marry my daughter. Now it sounded like a man reading off a script he had practiced too many times. I moved quietly, stepping away from the center of the room, letting the darkness swallow me completely. Another knock. Louder this time. Robert, we know you're in there. Of course they did. They tracked me here. They watched. They waited. Victoria didn't send him blindly. She sent him when she knew I'd already seen everything. She wanted this to end clean. I glanced at the laptop. Still open. Still glowing faintly on the table. Everything Catherine and Michael died for, sitting right there in plain sight. Too dangerous. Too exposed. I grabbed it, shut the screen, and pulled the power cable out. The battery wouldn't last long, but I didn't need long. I just needed enough. Outside, the doorknob rattled. Once. Twice. Then stopped. Silence. That was worse. Because men like Marcus, they don't rush. They wait. They calculate. They let you panic. I backed toward the hallway, every step slow, controlled, forcing my breathing to stay quiet. My mind was moving faster than it had in years. Options. There weren't many. Front door was gone. Back window, maybe. But the desert wasn't safety. It was exposure. Still. Better than a bullet in the dark. A loud crack split the silence. The door burst open. Wood splintered inward as Marcus stepped inside, a silhouette against the headlights. He didn't rush, didn't call out again. He just stood there for a second listening, waiting for me to make a mistake. I pressed myself against the wall, barely inches from the hallway corner, holding the laptop tight against my chest. My pulse was loud now. Too loud. I was sure he could hear it. His footsteps started. Slow. Measured. Each one echoing through the empty cottage like a countdown. I realized something then. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't even alert. He was confident. Because in his mind, I was already dead. His shadow stretched across the floor as he moved deeper inside. One step closer. Then another. Closer to the kitchen. Closer to the table where the gun still sat. He paused. I heard the faint metallic click as he picked it up. Really, he muttered under his breath. This was your plan, old man. I clenched my jaw. He thought I was weak, broken, ready to end myself. That assumption was the only thing keeping me alive. He moved again, toward the bedroom, toward me. I had seconds, maybe less. I turned slowly, carefully, and slipped into the back room. The window, half jammed, dust covering the edges, but loose enough. Catherine. She had prepared this place. Even this. I pushed gently. It didn't move. My chest tightened. Not now. Please, not now. Behind me, the floor creaked. He was closer. Too close. I pushed harder. The frame shifted, just a little. Wood scraping against wood. The sound felt like thunder in the silence. Marcus stopped moving. Everything froze. Robert, he said quietly. I didn't respond. Didn't breathe. Don't make this ugly. I pushed again. The window gave just enough. A gap. Small, but enough. I didn't think anymore. I moved. Slid through the opening, scraping my arm against the broken frame as I dropped into the cold desert air. Behind me. Stop. The shout came with movement. Fast now. No more patience. No more calm. I hit the ground hard, pain shooting up my legs, but adrenaline swallowed it whole. I ran. Not fast. Not graceful. But desperate. The kind of running where every step feels like it might be your last. Behind me, the door slammed open again. Footsteps. Then. A gunshot. The sound cracked through the desert, echoing across the emptiness. The bullet hit somewhere behind me. Close enough. Too close. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because the second you look back, you slow down. And slowing down meant dying. The night air tore through my lungs as I pushed forward, stumbling over uneven ground, rocks cutting into my shoes. Another shot. Closer. He wasn't warning me anymore. He was adjusting, learning my pace. I veered left, then right. No pattern, no logic, just instinct. The darkness helped. So did the terrain. But not enough. Not against someone younger, stronger, faster. My chest burned. My legs screamed. I could feel myself slowing. And I knew. I wouldn't outrun him. Not like this. Not for long. That's when I saw it. A slope ahead. Sharp. Steep. Leading down into darkness. No time to think. No time to question. I ran straight toward it. And jumped. The ground disappeared beneath my feet as I tumbled down the incline, rocks and dirt tearing at my clothes, my skin, everything spinning into chaos. Pain exploded through my shoulder as I hit hard at the bottom. For a second, everything went black. Then sound rushed back in. Wind. Silence. No footsteps. No gunshots. Nothing. I lay there, staring up at the sky, my chest rising and falling like it might collapse. He didn't follow. Or he lost sight of me. Either way. I was still alive. Barely. I forced myself to move, every muscle protesting as I crawled behind a cluster of rocks, pulling myself into shadow. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear. From exhaustion. From everything. I reached into my shoe, pulled out the micro SD card, held it in my palm. This tiny piece of plastic, was the reason my wife and son were dead. The reason my daughter wanted me buried. The reason I was lying in the dirt, bleeding, hunted. I closed my fist around it. And for the first time since all of this started, I made a decision. Not just to survive, but to finish it. No more running. No more hiding. Victoria thought she erased me. She thought she turned me into nothing. She was wrong. Because now, I had nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous thing in the world. I pushed myself up slowly, ignoring the pain screaming through my body. Somewhere out there, Marcus was searching. Somewhere beyond that, Victoria was waiting. Confident. Untouchable. For now. I looked toward the faint outline of the road in the distance. Toward whatever came next. And I started walking. Not away from them, but toward the end of everything. The cold hit me first. Not like a breeze, not like a chill, but something that felt personal, like the desert itself was trying to finish what my daughter had started. Every step hurt. My shoulder throbbed where I'd slammed into the rocks. My knees felt like glass grinding together, and my lungs, they burned with every breath I dragged in. But I kept moving, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering, and remembering would break me. So I walked, toward the road, toward the faint glow of lights in the distance, toward anything that wasn't that cottage, that graveyard, that life I had just lost. I don't know how long it took. Time stopped meaning anything out there. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like nothing. But eventually, I saw it. A diner. Small. Run down. Neon sign flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay alive or give up. Open. I almost laughed at that. Of course it was. Of course the one place open in the middle of nowhere would be exactly where a broken old man ends up at midnight. I pushed the door open. The bell above it rang. Sharp. Too loud. Every head inside turned toward me. There weren't many. A trucker at the counter. A couple in the corner. And a woman behind the register, mid-50s maybe. Eyes that had seen enough life to recognize trouble when it walked in. Which is exactly what I was. Trouble. I must have looked like hell. Dust covered. Blood on my sleeve. Clothes torn. She didn't say anything at first. Just watched me. Measuring. Deciding. Then finally. Kitchen still open, she said quietly. You need food or something else. Her eyes dropped to my arm. Then back to my face. She knew. Not everything. But enough. I swallowed hard. Phone, I said. My voice barely worked. I need a phone. She didn't move right away. That hesitation. It told me everything. Out here, people don't ask questions. But they don't ignore danger either. Yours dead, she asked. I nodded. She reached under the counter, pulled out a landline handset, and slid it toward me. Local calls only, she said. I took it. My hands were shaking, so badly I had to steady them against the counter just to dial. One number. The only number that mattered now. Catherine's letter. Burned into my memory. FBI Special Agent, Diana Rohr. I punched it in. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. Then. Rohr. Her voice was sharp. Alert. No nonsense. I closed my eyes for a second. Grounded myself. My name is Robert Sullivan, I said. My wife contacted you. Silence. Then. Where are you? No hesitation. No confusion. She knew. I have evidence, I said. Everything, financial records, videos, names. Another pause. Shorter this time. Are you safe? I looked around the diner. At the windows. At the empty road outside. at the dark stretching in every direction. "No," I said honestly. "They're looking for me." "Who?" I swallowed. "My daughter." The word felt wrong now. Heavy. Foreign. Dangerous. Another silence. Longer. Then, "Stay where you are," she said. "Do not leave. Do not talk to anyone. I'm sending a team." The line clicked. Dead. I lowered the phone slowly. My reflection stared back at me from the chrome coffee machine behind the counter. I didn't recognize him. Not anymore. "Coffee?" the woman asked. I nodded. She poured it without another word. Set it in front of me. Black. Hot. Real. I wrapped my hands around the cup, felt the warmth seep into my fingers. For a moment. Just a moment. I felt human again. "You in trouble?" she asked after a while. I looked up at her. Thought about lying. About giving her something simple. Easy. But I was too tired for that. "Yeah," I said. "More than you know." She studied me. Then nodded once. Like that was enough. Like she didn't need the details. That's when the trucker stood up. Big guy. Quiet. He walked past me, paused for a second. Then leaned in just enough to speak low. "You got about 10 minutes, he said. My grip tightened on the cup. "What?" He didn't look at me. Didn't explain. Just walked out. The door swung shut behind him. The bell rang again. And suddenly, the air in that diner felt different. Heavy. Wrong. I looked at the woman behind the counter. She wasn't surprised. Wasn't confused. She just sighed, like she'd seen this kind of thing before. "You got enemies," she said. Not a question. A fact. I stood up slowly. Pain shot through my body again. Didn't matter. "Back exit?" I asked. She jerked her head toward the hallway. "No cameras," she added. I nodded once. Grabbed the coffee, downed it in one swallow, burning my throat. Didn't care. I moved. Fast as I could. Down the narrow hallway. Past a storage room. To a metal door at the back. I paused there. Hand on the handle. Heart pounding again. This was it. No more illusions. No more denial. My daughter wasn't just after the evidence. She was after me. And she wasn't going to stop. I pushed the door open. Cold air hit me again. Darkness. Silence. And somewhere out there. Headlights. Moving. Slow. Searching. I stepped out, letting the door close quietly behind me. And in that moment, I understood something with absolute clarity. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was a war. And I was the last man standing between a monster. And the truth. The headlights moved like predators. Slow. Sweeping. Patient. Not random. Not lost. They were hunting. I stepped back into the shadows, pressing myself against the cold metal wall of the diner, forcing my breathing to slow. My heart wanted to pound out of my chest, but panic was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. Think Robert. Think. The highway stretched out about 50 yards ahead. Open. Exposed. Death if they saw me. To the right, darkness. Desert. Rocks. No cover, but no certainty either. To the left, a narrow strip behind the building. Trash bins. A broken fence. Maybe a path. I chose left. Always choose unpredictability. I moved quickly but low, keeping close to the wall until I reached the bins. The smell hit me, sharp and sour, but I didn't care. I slipped past them and found the fence. Bent. Loose. Like someone had already forced their way through it before. That thought didn't comfort me. It made things worse. I pushed it aside just enough to squeeze through, the metal scraping against my jacket. On the other side, more darkness. More unknown. But I kept moving. Behind me, tires crunched over gravel. Closer now. They'd seen the diner. Of course they had. Victoria didn't make mistakes like missing the only light for miles. I crouched behind a low ridge, peering back through the fence. 2 vehicles now. Not just the Tesla. A black SUV. Professional. Doors opened. Figures stepped out. 3, no, 4 of them. Marcus was there. I'd recognize that silhouette anywhere. And next to him, even from a distance, I knew. Victoria. She stepped out slowly, adjusting her coat like she'd just arrived at a business meeting instead of a manhunt. Her posture was the same. Controlled. Elegant. Untouchable. She said something to Marcus. He nodded. The others spread out. Search pattern. Systematic. Efficient. My stomach tightened. These weren't just hired hands. These were professionals. Which meant one thing. Victoria had gone far beyond stealing money. She had built something. Connections. Power. Reach. Enough to erase people. Enough to almost erase me. I backed away slowly, keeping low, moving deeper into the darkness. Every instinct told me to run. To put as much distance as possible between me and them. But something stopped me. A thought. Cold. Sharp. Clear. Running had kept me alive. But running wouldn't end this. If I kept running, they'd keep chasing. And eventually, they'd catch me. No. I needed leverage. I needed something they didn't expect. I looked down at my shoe. At the place where the micro SD card was taped inside. That tiny piece of plastic was everything. Proof of theft. Proof of murder. Proof that Victoria Sullivan wasn't just a criminal. She was a monster. And monsters like her. They don't fear guns. They don't fear the law. They fear exposure. I needed to get that evidence somewhere safe. Somewhere she couldn't touch it. Agent Rohr said she was sending a team. But how far was that team? Minutes. Hours. Too long. I needed insurance. My eyes scanned the horizon. Then I saw it. A rusted payphone near the edge of the highway. Half broken. Leaning slightly to one side. Forgotten. Perfect. I moved toward it, keeping low, using every shadow I could find. Behind me, voices. Closer now. They were spreading out wider. Sweeping the area. Victoria wasn't rushing. She was tightening the net. I reached the payphone. My hands moved fast. Instinct now. Survival. I dug the SD card out of my shoe, my fingers numb but steady enough. Then I pulled off my watch. My father's Seiko. Old. Heavy. Reliable. I popped the back open with shaking hands. Slipped the SD card inside. Closed it again. Tight. Secure. If they caught me, they wouldn't find it. I put the watch back on. Then I did something I hadn't done yet. Something I'd been avoiding. I turned my phone back on. The screen flickered weakly. Battery barely alive. But enough. I recorded a video. My face filled the screen. Dirty. Bloodied. Tired. But my eyes were different now. Focused. Alive. My name is Robert Sullivan, I said quietly. If you're seeing this, it means I didn't make it. I swallowed. Forced myself to keep going. My daughter, Victoria Sullivan Hartley, is responsible for the deaths of my wife and son. I have evidence, financial records, video proof, everything is stored. I hesitated. Thought about saying where. No. Too risky. Everything is secured. If anything happens to me, it needs to reach the FBI. Agent Diana Rohr. I paused. My voice cracked for the first time. Catherine Michael, I'm sorry, I should have listened, I should have seen it. I ended the recording. Sent it to the only email address I could remember. My own. Cloud backup. Basic. But enough. Insurance. I wiped the phone. Dropped it. Crushed it under my heel. No more tracking. No more signals. Just me. And them. Behind me. Robert. Victoria's voice cut through the darkness. Closer than before. Too close. I turned slowly. And there she was, standing about 30 yards away, perfectly still, watching me. Even in the dark, I could see her smile. Not wide, not exaggerated, just enough. The same smile she had at the funeral. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said calmly. I didn't move, didn't speak. "What do you think happens here?" she continued, taking a slow step forward. "You run forever, hide in deserts, live like this." Another step. "You're tired, Dad." Her voice softened, almost kind. "Look at you." I clenched my fists. Every instinct screamed at me to charge her, to end it right there. But that wasn't the fight. Not yet. "You killed them," I said. The words came out steady, stronger than I expected. She didn't flinch, didn't deny it, just tilted her head slightly. "They were a problem," she said, just like that, like she was talking about a broken machine. Not her mother, not her brother. Something inside me went very, very still. "You're not my daughter," I said. That made her smile widen just a fraction. "No," she said. "I'm the version of me you were too blind to see." Marcus stepped into view behind her, gun in his hand, aimed, steady. "You have something that belongs to us," Victoria said. I shook my head slowly. "No," I replied. "It belongs to the truth." For the first time. Her expression shifted, just a little. Annoyance, impatience. "Last chance," she said. I looked past her, at the horizon, at the faintest hint of movement in the distance. Lights. Different. Fast. Approaching. And then I smiled. Not like her. Not cold. Not cruel. Just certain. "You're too late," I said. Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. And that was enough. Because the sound came next. Sirens. Faint at first. Then growing. Louder. Closer. Victoria turned her head sharply. Marcus swore under his breath. The other men shifted, breaking formation, confused. And for the first time since all of this began, the power shifted. Not completely. Not yet. But enough. Victoria looked back at me. And this time, there was no smile. Only something darker. Something dangerous. "This isn't over," she said quietly. I met her gaze. "No," I replied. "It's just beginning." The sirens closed in. Red and blue lights cutting through the desert night. And for the first time in days, I felt something I thought I'd lost. Not peace. Not relief. But something stronger. Justice, finally catching up. The sirens didn't scare her. That's what I noticed first. Victoria didn't panic. Didn't run. Didn't even step back. She just stood there, watching the lights get closer, calculating. That's when I understood something I should have realized earlier. People like her don't fear the law. They prepare for it. Marcus lowered the gun slightly, leaning toward her. "We need to move," he muttered. Victoria didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed locked on me. Studying. Weighing. Like she was trying to decide if I was still worth killing, even now. Then she smiled again. Small. Controlled. "You really think this saves you?" she said. The sirens were louder now. Close enough that the desert started flashing red and blue. "It's not about saving me," I replied. "It's about ending you." That hit something. I saw it. A flicker. Not fear. But irritation. Like I'd stepped out of the role she wrote for me. Like I wasn't supposed to fight back. "Dad," she said softly, almost disappointed. "You were supposed to disappear." Behind her, the SUV doors slammed shut. The men were already moving. Professional. Disciplined. No wasted motion. This wasn't their first time walking away from something like this. Marcus stepped back toward the car, still watching me, gun lowered but ready. Victoria took one last step closer instead. Alone. Bold. Dangerous. "Listen to me carefully," she said, her voice dropping low, intimate, like she used to when she was a child trying to convince me of something. You think you've won because you made a call, because you have some files. She shook her head slightly. You have no idea how deep this goes. The sirens were right there now. Engines. Voices. Commands echoing across the desert. She leaned in just enough that only I could hear her next words. If I fall, I won't fall alone. A chill ran through me. Not fear. Recognition. This wasn't over. Not even close. Then she stepped back. Turned. Walked to the SUV like nothing had happened. Marcus opened the door for her. She got in. Calm. Untouched. The vehicle pulled away just as the first FBI unit roared into the lot. Perfect timing. Too perfect. They were gone before anyone could stop them. I stood there breathing hard, watching the dust settle where they'd been just seconds ago. And then, Robert Sullivan. I turned. 3 agents moving toward me. Weapons lowered but not relaxed. One of them stepped forward. Mid-40s. Sharp eyes. Focused. You called this in. I nodded. I'm Diana Rohr. For a second. Everything slowed. This was the moment Catherine had planned for. The moment Michael died for. And I almost didn't make it here. She knows, I said immediately. Victoria, she knows everything. She sent people. They were just here. Rohr glanced toward the road, then back at me. We saw the vehicles. Units are tracking. I shook my head. No, I said firmly. You don't understand. She plans ahead. She's already accounted for this. Rohr studied me for a second. Then nodded once. Then we moved faster. That was the first thing I liked about her. No ego. No dismissal. Just action. You have the evidence, she asked. I hesitated. Just for a second. Then I lifted my wrist. Her eyes dropped to the watch. Then back to me. A flicker of understanding passed between us. Smart. Catherine chose well. It's not all of it, I said. But it's enough. Rohr gestured to one of the agents. Get him in the vehicle. They moved fast after that. Efficient. Controlled. Within minutes, I was in the back of an SUV, wrapped in a blanket, a medic checking my shoulder. But I barely felt it. My mind was somewhere else. Back at the cottage. Back at the videos. Back at Michael's voice. She looked at me like I was already dead. I closed my eyes. Took a slow breath. I'm going to finish it, I said quietly. Rohr was sitting across from me now. Watching. Evaluating. You already started, she replied. I shook my head. No, I said. This isn't just about evidence. She raised an eyebrow slightly. What is it about? I looked at her. Really looked this time. You ever see someone destroy their own family and call it strategy? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. That's what she is, I continued. Not just a criminal, not just a killer. My voice hardened. She's patient, she builds things, plans years ahead, and she doesn't stop until she owns everything. Rohr leaned back slightly. So what are you saying? I met her gaze. I'm saying, if you don't stop her completely. I paused. Let the weight of it settle. She'll do this again. Silence filled the vehicle. Heavy. Real. Then Rohr nodded once. Then we don't miss. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because Victoria had made one mistake. Just one. She left me alive. And now, I wasn't running anymore. I was coming for her. Not as her father, but as the only man who knew exactly what she was capable of. And still stood against her. The city lights felt wrong. After the desert, after the silence, after the raw, exposed truth of everything that had happened, the city felt artificial. Too bright. Too loud. Too alive. Like nothing out there had mattered. Like my wife and son hadn't just been buried. Like my daughter wasn't out there somewhere, planning her next move. I sat in the back of the SUV, watching buildings blur past the window. My reflection staring back at me like a stranger I hadn't decided to trust yet. Agent Roar hadn't said much during the drive. She didn't need to. People like her. They listen more than they talk. And right now, she was listening to everything I wasn't saying. We pulled into an underground garage beneath a federal building just before dawn. Concrete walls, security gates, cameras everywhere. Safe. At least safe in the way the world defines it. But I knew better. Safe doesn't exist when someone like Victoria is still breathing. They moved me inside quickly, quietly. No attention. No names spoken out loud. Just procedures. Doors opening, closing, locks clicking behind us. I was taken into a small room. No windows. Just a table, 2 chairs, and a faint hum from the ventilation above. Roar stepped in a minute later. Alone. She closed the door behind her and sat across from me. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. She just looked at me. Not like a suspect. Not like a victim. Like a puzzle. Start from the beginning, she said finally. So I did. Everything. Catherine's behavior before the accident. Michael's message. The cottage. The files. The videos. Marcus. Victoria. I didn't leave anything out. Didn't soften it. Didn't protect myself. Because none of that mattered anymore. When I finished, the room was quiet again. Roar leaned back slightly, her fingers steepled together, eyes fixed on the table. Processing. Connecting. Building something in her mind. This isn't just fraud, she said slowly. No. This isn't just a family dispute. I let out a hollow breath. No. She looked up at me. This is organized. I nodded. Yes. She stood up. Started pacing. Slow. Measured. There are patterns here, she muttered. Shell companies, layered accounts, timing of deaths, asset transfers. She stopped. Looked at me again. She's been building this for years. Decades, I corrected quietly. That landed. I saw it in her eyes. A shift. The moment this stopped being a case and became something bigger. She didn't just wake up like this, I said. She grew into it, right in front of us. Roar walked to the door. Paused. Then turned back. Stay here, she said. Do not talk to anyone else, not even other agents unless I'm present. Why? A brief hesitation. Then. Because if what you're saying is true, we don't know who's clean yet. The words settled heavy in the room. Not paranoia. Reality. She stepped out. The door locked behind her. And just like that, I was alone again. But this time it was different. This time I wasn't powerless. I had something. Time passed. I don't know how much. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. There were no windows. No clocks. Just silence. Then the door opened again. A different agent stepped in. Younger. Nervous. Holding a file. Mr. Sullivan, he said. I didn't answer right away. I studied him. His posture. His eyes. The way he held the folder. Looking for something. Anything. Fear. Deception. He shifted slightly under my gaze. I need you to come with me, he added. I didn't move. Where's Agent Roar? She's occupied, he said quickly. This is urgent. Too quick. Too smooth. Something was off. I'll wait, I said calmly. He stepped closer. You don't understand. We need to move now. And there it was. Pressure. Unnecessary. Unnatural. I leaned back in the chair. No. His jaw tightened. Just slightly. Enough. I'm not going anywhere without her, I said. Silence stretched between us. Then. His hand moved. Not fast. Not dramatic. But deliberate. Inside his jacket. My body reacted before my mind caught up. Chair scraping back. Heart slamming against my ribs. The door burst open. Don't. Roar's voice cut through the room like a blade. The agent froze. his hand halfway inside his jacket. Two more agents rushed in behind her, weapons drawn. "Step away," one of them barked. The young agent slowly raised his hands. Calm again. Too calm. They moved in, pulled him back, secured him. Roar stepped toward me. Her eyes were sharp now, focused, dangerous. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "That one's dirty," I said. She didn't argue, didn't hesitate. "I know." She turned to the other agents. "Full sweep, everyone now." They dragged the man out. The door slammed shut again. Roar looked at me. Really looked this time. "You just proved something," she said. "What?" "That you're not the weak link she thought you were." I let out a breath. She underestimated me. Roar shook her head slightly. "No," she said. "She understood you perfectly. That caught me off guard. Then why am I still alive?" Roar held my gaze. "Because she needed you to break." Silence filled the room again. Different this time. Sharper. More dangerous. "And now?" I asked. Roar's expression hardened. "Now she has a problem." She pulled out a tablet. Set it on the table between us. "Because we found something too." She tapped the screen. Turned it toward me. And what I saw made my blood run cold. A list. Names. Dozens of them. Judges. Executives. Law enforcement. Politicians. All connected. All tied to accounts. All tied to her. "This isn't just your daughter anymore," Roar said quietly. I stared at the screen. At the scale of it. At the reach. At the truth I hadn't even begun to understand. "Who is she?" I whispered. Roar didn't answer right away. Then, "She's the center," she said. "But she's not the top." I looked up slowly. "What does that mean?" Roar met my eyes. "It means," she said carefully, "you're not just fighting your daughter anymore." A pause. Heavy. Real. "You're stepping into something much bigger." I leaned back in the chair. Every part of me wanted to stop. To walk away. To disappear. To let someone else handle it. But I couldn't. Not after Catherine. Not after Michael. Not after everything I'd seen. "So what happens now?" I asked. Roar's answer came without hesitation. "Now." She picked up the tablet, turned off the screen, and looked me dead in the eye. "We take her whole world down." And for the first time, I believed it was possible. They moved me before sunrise. No warning. No explanation. Just a quiet knock on the door, and 3 agents stepping in like shadows. "Time to go," one of them said. I didn't ask where. Didn't ask why. Because at this point movement meant one thing. Something had changed. The hallway outside was different from before. More agents. More tension. More eyes watching everything and everyone. Not chaos. Control. But the kind of control you only see right before something breaks. Roar was waiting near the elevator. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. Thinking 3 steps ahead like always. "We've got a problem," she said the moment I reached her. I let out a breath. Another one. She didn't smile. "They found the cottage." That hit harder than I expected. "How?" "We don't know yet," she said. "But it's compromised." I shook my head slowly. "Everything there." "Gone," she cut in. "Cleaned out, burned. No prints, no drives, no trace." "Of course. Victoria didn't leave loose ends." "Then what do we have?" I asked. Roar looked at my wrist. The one thing she doesn't know about. I instinctively tightened my hand slightly. The watch. Still there. Still ticking. Still holding the one piece of truth she hadn't erased. "We move now," Roar said. "No more waiting." The elevator doors opened. We stepped inside. As they closed, I caught a glimpse of the hallway behind us. Agents moving fast. Doors opening. Voices low but urgent. Something big was already in motion. The ride down was silent, but not empty. You could feel it. That pressure. That weight of knowing you're about to cross a line you can't come back from. When the doors opened, we weren't in the garage anymore. This was deeper, secure, a different level entirely. They led me into a larger room this time. Screens on the walls, maps, data streams, people working fast but controlled. This wasn't just an office. This was a war room. And at the center of it, a digital map filled with blinking points. Roar walked me straight to it. "This is what your daughter built," she said. I stared at the screen. Dots across the country. Clusters in major cities. Connections linking them like veins. "What am I looking at?" I asked. "Money," she said. "Influence, control." She pointed to one cluster. Shell companies. Another. Offshore accounts. Another. Political leverage. My chest tightened. "This is bigger than fraud." Roar glanced at me. "I told you." I swallowed. "And she's at the center of all of it." Roar hesitated. Just slightly. "Not exactly." That again. That same phrase. "Not the top." I turned toward her. "Then who is?" Before she could answer, an agent rushed over. "Ma'am, we have movement." Roar snapped her attention to the nearest screen. "What kind of movement?" The agent pointed. "Multiple accounts liquidating, rapid transfers, someone's pulling funds." My stomach dropped. "She knows," I said. Roar didn't argue. "Lock everything you can," she ordered. "Trace the exits." "It's too fast," the agent replied. "They're splitting it across dozens of channels." Roar's jaw tightened. "She's wiping it," I said. "Burning the network." Not panic. Strategy. She was cutting losses. Preparing for something else. "Not everything," Roar said suddenly. She turned to me. "The watch." I understood instantly. That data. It wasn't in her system anymore. It wasn't in any network she could erase. It was right here. Analog. Hidden. Untouched. Roar gestured toward a workstation. "Now." I stepped forward. Hands steady despite everything. An agent handed me a small toolkit. Precision tools. Clean. Efficient. I took off the watch. Held it for a second. My father's watch. The one thing I never thought I'd use like this. Then I opened it. Carefully. Slowly. The back popped free. And there it was. That tiny piece of plastic. The entire truth, compressed into something smaller than my thumb. I handed it over. The agent slid it into a reader. The screen flickered. Then filled with data. Files. Folders. Encrypted logs. Video timestamps. Everything. The room went quiet. Not silent. But focused. Like everyone understood, this was it. Roar leaned in. "Start pulling everything," she said. "Cross-reference names, build connections. I want a full map in real time." The agents moved fast. Faster than before. Now they had something real. Something solid. Minutes passed. Then, "Ma'am," one of them said slowly. Roar looked up. "What?" The agent turned the screen slightly, so we could all see. And what I saw made everything else feel small. Because one name sat at the top of everything. Not Victoria. Not Marcus. Someone else. Someone older. Someone powerful. A name I recognized instantly. A man I had met before. Years ago. At my own dinner table. "Who is that?" Roar asked. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "That's Daniel Harrow." The room shifted. Subtle. But real. "You know him," she pressed. I nodded slowly. "He's not just connected," I said. I swallowed. Because saying it out loud made it real. "He's the one who introduced Victoria to all of this." Roar's eyes sharpened. Background. I let out a breath. Investor, philanthropist, board member on 3 major institutions. I paused. Then added. And he used to call my daughter exceptional. Silence settled over the room again. Heavier this time. Because now, we weren't just chasing a criminal network. We were staring at the man who built it. Roar straightened. All units, she said clearly. We have a primary target. She looked at me one last time. This just escalated. I nodded. Yeah, I said quietly. Because now I understood something that changed everything. Victoria wasn't the end of this. She was the beginning. And the man behind her. He wasn't just dangerous. He was untouchable. Or at least, he thought he was. And that was about to change. The name stayed in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. Daniel Harrow. Even saying it out loud felt wrong now, like I was pulling something hidden into the light that had no business being seen. Roar didn't waste time. Everything on him, she ordered. Financials, communications, travel history, known associates. I want it yesterday. Agents scattered, fingers flying across keyboards, screens shifting faster now, pulling threads from every direction. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Because my mind wasn't in that room anymore. It was years back. At my own dinner table. Catherine laughing. Michael arguing about something pointless. Victoria quiet watching. And Harrow sitting there like he belonged. I remember the way he looked at her. Not inappropriate. Not obvious. Just interested. Like he saw something the rest of us didn't. Your daughter has a rare mind, he had said that night, sipping his wine like it was nothing. You should nurture that. I thought it was a compliment. God. I thought it was a compliment. Robert. Roar's voice pulled me back. Sharp. Grounded. I blinked, refocused on the present. What? You're somewhere else, she said. I need you here. I nodded. Forced myself back into the room. He knew, I said. Back then, he already knew what she could become. Roar studied me for a second. Or he made her into it. That landed harder. Because deep down, I knew which one it was. The screen shifted again. More data populating. Connections forming faster now. And the picture that started to take shape. It wasn't just corruption. It was structure. Hierarchy. A system designed to move money, influence decisions, erase obstacles. Efficient. Silent. Deadly. Ma'am, an agent called out. We're seeing patterns in the transfers. Roar stepped closer. Explain. They're not just moving money randomly. It's consolidating, pulling into a smaller number of accounts. Why? The agent hesitated. Then. Because they're preparing to move it out completely. My chest tightened. Disappear, I said. Roar nodded once. Exactly. She turned to another agent. Can we freeze it? Trying, he replied. But they're using layered jurisdictions. Some of these accounts are already beyond our reach. Roar clenched her jaw. Then we don't chase the money. She looked at me. We go after the source. Harrow. Of course. Cut off the head. But men like him. They don't sit in obvious places. They don't wait to be caught. Do we know where he is? I asked. Another agent spoke up. We have a potential location. Private airstrip outside Reno. One of his companies owns the land. Roar didn't hesitate. That's where he's going. Or already gone, I added. She looked at me. Then we moved faster. Everything shifted again. Agents grabbing gear. Commands being issued. This wasn't investigation anymore. This was pursuit. Roar turned to me. You're coming. It wasn't a question. I didn't argue. I'm not sitting this out, I said. She gave a small nod. Good. Minutes later, I was in another vehicle. Different team. Different energy. More aggressive. Less cautious. We weren't building a case anymore. We were trying to stop an escape. The drive felt shorter than it should have. Adrenaline does that. Time bends when everything matters. The sun was just starting to rise when we reached the airstrip. Wide open land. A single runway. A hangar in the distance. And a jet. Engines already running. We're late, someone muttered. No, Roar said firmly. We're just in time. Vehicles spread out fast, cutting off angles, agents moving with precision, weapons ready but controlled. I stepped out slowly, my eyes locked on the jet. This was it. The man behind everything. The one who saw my daughter not as a child, but as potential. The hangar doors were open, and then he walked out. Daniel Harrow, older than I remember, but not weaker. If anything, sharper, more composed. Like this moment had been planned just as carefully as everything else. He looked at the vehicles, at the agents, at the guns, and then his eyes landed on me. No surprise, no panic, just recognition. Well, he said calmly, his voice carrying across the distance, this is unfortunate. Roar stepped forward. Daniel Harrow, you are under. He raised a hand slightly, not to stop her, just to speak. Let's not pretend this ends here, he said. His tone wasn't defensive. It wasn't desperate. It was certain. You've disrupted something, yes, he continued. But you haven't stopped it. Roar didn't flinch. Step away from the aircraft. Harrow smiled faintly. You think I built all of this without contingencies? My stomach dropped, because I knew that tone. I'd heard it before. From Victoria. The same calm. The same certainty. The same belief that he was always 3 steps ahead. Where is she? I asked. His eyes flicked to me. Just for a second. Then back to Roar. She's exactly where she needs to be, he said. That wasn't an answer. That was a warning. Roar's voice hardened. Last chance, Harrow. He looked at the jet, then back at us. And for the first time, I saw something shift. Not fear, but calculation changing direction. Like he just decided something. Then, all right, he said quietly. And he stepped away from the plane. Agents moved in immediately. Fast. Controlled. Weapons trained. Hands secured. But even as they cuffed him, he didn't resist. Didn't argue. Didn't panic. He just looked at me. And smiled. That same small, controlled smile. You still don't see it, he said. My chest tightened. See what? He leaned in slightly as they pulled him past me. This was never about money. The words hit harder than anything else he'd said. What does that mean? I demanded. But he didn't answer. He just kept walking. Toward the vehicles. Toward custody. Like a man who knew something no one else did. I stood there watching him go, the weight of those words settling deep. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because if it wasn't about money, then what the hell had all of this been for? Roar stepped beside me. We got him, she said. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I replied. But my eyes were still on Harrow. On that smile. On that certainty. And deep down, I knew. This wasn't the ending. It was the beginning of something even worse. Because somewhere out there, Victoria was still free. And whatever this really was, she was still playing the game. The jet engines powered down slowly, like the world itself was exhaling. But inside me, nothing slowed. Harrow's words kept echoing. This was never about money. I stood there, staring at the runway long after they'd taken him away, trying to force meaning into something that refused to make sense. If it wasn't money, then what? Power. Control. Influence. No. Those were tools. Not the goal. Roar placed a hand on my shoulder. We need to move, she said. I didn't argue. Because I could feel it now. Something unfinished. Something still moving. And we were behind it. They transported Harrow under heavy guard. Multiple vehicles. No chances. No risks. But even then, I didn't feel like we had him. Not really. Men like that don't get caught. Not unless they allow it. And that thought wouldn't leave me alone. Back at the facility, everything was louder. Faster. Agents moving with urgency. Voices overlapping. Screens updating constantly. The energy had shifted. We weren't chasing anymore. We were reacting. Roar led me straight into an interrogation observation room. One-way glass. Cold lighting. A table. 2 chairs. And Daniel Harrow sitting in the middle of it, like he was hosting a meeting. Not a suspect. Not a prisoner. A man completely in control. He looked up the moment we entered behind the glass. Like he could see through it. Like he knew exactly where I was standing. "That's impossible," I muttered. Roar didn't respond. She was watching him too closely. Studying every movement. Every breath. "Start recording," she said. An agent nodded. Inside the room, another agent sat across from Harrow. Standard procedure. Questions. Formalities. None of it mattered. Because Harrow wasn't there to answer. He was there to talk. "You're wasting time," he said calmly, before they even asked the first real question. The agent across from him didn't react. "What is the purpose of your organization?" he asked. Harrow smiled slightly. "You still think that's the right question?" Silence. The agent leaned forward. "People are dead." "Yes," Harrow replied without hesitation. "They are." No emotion. No denial. Nothing. "Why?" the agent pressed. Harrow tilted his head slightly. "Because they were supposed to be." That made my fists clench. Roar didn't move. But I could feel the shift in her. This wasn't interrogation anymore. This was something else. "Where is Victoria Sullivan?" the agent asked. That got a reaction. Small. Subtle. But real. Harrow leaned back in his chair. Relaxed. "She's evolving," he said. The room went still. "What does that mean?" the agent demanded. Harrow looked straight ahead. Toward the glass. Toward me. "It means she's already beyond this." A chill ran through me. Beyond this. Beyond what? Capture. Exposure. Consequences. Roar stepped closer to the glass. "What did you build?" she said quietly. Harrow didn't answer her. He answered me. "I gave her clarity," he said. "Something you never could." My jaw tightened. "You turned her into this," I said. Harrow's smile faded slightly. "No," he said. "She was always this. I just removed the limits." The words hit like a hammer. Because part of me, a part I didn't want to admit, knew he might be right. "No one is born like that," I snapped. Harrow's eyes sharpened. "No," he said. "Then explain how easily she let go of you." Silence. Heavy. Personal. Roar cut in. "This ends now." Harrow looked at her. Calm again. "No," he said. "It doesn't." He leaned forward slightly. And for the first time, there was something else in his eyes. Not confidence. Not arrogance. Expectation. "You've already lost," he said. Alarms went off. Loud. Sharp. Sudden. The entire room shifted instantly. Agents moving. Voices rising. "What is that?" I asked. Roar turned, already moving. "Security breach." My blood ran cold. "Where?" An agent's voice came through. "Multiple entry points. Systems are going down." Roar's expression hardened. "How?" The answer came back. "Internal override." Silence. Just for a second. Then everything snapped into place. "Victoria." "She's here," I said. Roar didn't argue. Because she knew. We all knew. Harrow smiled. Not wide. Not dramatic. Just enough. "Told you." The lights flickered. Then cut out. Darkness swallowed everything. For a split second, there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just black. Then, emergency lights kicked in. Dim. Red. Barely enough to see. Shadows everywhere. Uncertain. Dangerous. Roar grabbed my arm. "Stay with me." Footsteps echoed down the hall. Fast. Too fast. Gunshots. Distant. Then closer. Agents shouting. Commands overlapping. Chaos. This way, Roar said, pulling me toward the exit. We moved fast. Through corridors that no longer felt secure. Through doors that no longer felt safe. Everything had changed. This wasn't a facility anymore. It was a battlefield. We turned a corner and froze at the end of the hallway. Standing in the red emergency light was Victoria, alone, calm, waiting, like she'd been there the whole time. Her eyes locked onto mine, and she smiled. "You should have stayed in the desert," she said softly. Everything inside me went still. Roar stepped forward slightly, gun raised. "Don't move." Victoria didn't even look at her. Her attention stayed on me. "You don't understand what you've done," she said. I stepped forward, just slightly. "Yeah," I replied. "I do." Her smile widened just a fraction. "No," she said. "You really don't." Behind her, more footsteps. Her people, closing in. Roar tightened her grip on the weapon. "This ends here." Victoria finally glanced at her, then back at me, and shook her head slowly. "No," she said again. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't here to escape. She was here to finish it. And this time, there would be no running. Everything slowed. Not the world, not the danger, just me. The sound of boots closing in behind Victoria faded into something distant, like it didn't belong to me anymore. The red emergency lights flickered across her face, cutting her into pieces of shadow and calm. My daughter, or whatever she had become. Roar's voice was steady beside me. "Drop whatever you're holding, now." Victoria didn't even blink. She kept looking at me. Always me. "Tell me something, Dad," she said softly. "When you saw the videos, when you finally understood, did you hate me?" The question landed harder than any gunshot. I didn't answer right away, because the truth wasn't simple. Because hate wasn't the first thing I felt. "I didn't understand you," I said finally. Her smile shifted. "Not gone, just thinner." "That's not what I asked." I took a step forward. Roar didn't stop me this time. "I don't hate you," I said. "I hate what you chose." For the first time, something cracked. Not visibly, not dramatically, but I saw it. A flicker behind her eyes. Gone almost instantly. "You think this was a choice?" she said quietly. "Yes." Her head tilted slightly. "You still don't see it." Behind her, shadows moved closer. Armed. Ready. But she didn't move. Didn't signal them. Didn't need to. She was in control. "Everything you built," I said, my voice stronger now. "Everything you destroyed, you call that clarity." She exhaled slowly, like she was tired of explaining something obvious. "I call it truth," she said. "No illusions, no attachments, no weakness." Her eyes locked into mine again. "You loved us, and it made you blind." That one cut deep, because she wasn't completely wrong. "I loved you," I said. "That was never weakness. It was your greatest flaw." Silence fell between us. Not empty. Heavy. Final. Behind me, I could hear more agents moving into position. Roar was buying time, giving me space, or maybe she knew something I didn't. "Where does it end?" I asked her. Victoria didn't hesitate. "It doesn't." Of course. That was the answer. Not money. Not power. Control without end. A system that feeds itself. A life without limits. Harrow didn't build that. He just recognized it in her. And everyone else. I said. "They're just what? Collateral." "They're variables," she corrected calmly. "And Mom." My voice tightened. "Michael." A pause. Small. But real. "They were risks," she said. That was it. That was the moment something inside me stopped trying to reach her. Stopped trying to understand. Stopped trying to bring her back. Because there was nothing left to bring back. Roar's voice came again, sharper now. "This is over." Victoria finally looked at her. then at the agents behind me, then back at me, and slowly. She reached into her coat. Every weapon in the hallway lifted instantly. "Don't," Roar snapped. But Victoria didn't pull out a gun. She pulled out a small device. Black. Minimal. Familiar. A trigger. My chest tightened. "What is that?" I asked. Her eyes softened. For the first time, in a way I remembered. "Insurance," she said. "No," I said immediately. "No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to decide that anymore." My mind raced. Building connections. Harrow's calm. The network collapsing. The money being moved. This wasn't just about escape. It was about erasure. If you press that, it ends everything, she finished. Not just here. Everywhere. Data. Evidence. People. All of it wiped clean. Years of work, gone in a second. "You won't do it," I said. She held my gaze. "You still think you know me." I stepped closer, ignoring the tension, ignoring the guns, ignoring everything but her. "I know this," I said quietly. "You're not done proving something." A flicker. Again. There. "You didn't come here to erase it," I continued. "You came here to face me." Silence. The hallway held its breath. Because somewhere in all of this, I said, my voice lowering, "You needed me to see you." Her hand tightened slightly around the device. "You're wrong." "No," I said. "You could have disappeared. You could have finished this without ever stepping into this building." I took another step. Closer now. "You came here because part of you still cares what I think." Her eyes shifted. Just a fraction. And that was enough. "Victoria," I said softly. Not cold. Not angry. Just her name. The way I used to say it. The way a father does. "You don't have to end like this." Her breathing changed. Subtle. But I saw it. Faster. Less controlled. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then help me understand." A long pause. The longest one yet. Everything balanced on it. Every life. Every truth. Every choice. And then she laughed. Not loud. Not wide. Just broken. "You really believe that, don't you?" I didn't answer. Because I did. Even now. Even after everything. She looked down at the device. Then back at me. And for a second, I saw her. Not the version Harrow shaped. Not the one in the videos. My daughter. The little girl who used to sit at the dinner table, arguing with her brother. The one who used to ask me questions about everything. The one who used to believe in things. And then it was gone. Replaced. Sealed. Final. "I can't go back," she said. "I know," I replied. "But you can stop." Her thumb hovered over the trigger. The room froze. Roar's voice came low and controlled. "Don't do this." Victoria didn't look at her. She only looked at me. And in that last moment, there was no anger, no cruelty, just distance. "I already did," she said. And she pressed it. Nothing happened. No explosion. No shutdown. No collapse. Just silence. Confusion rippled through the room. Agents glanced around. Systems still running. Lights still on. Everything intact. Victoria blinked. Once. Then again. Her hand lowered slowly. "What?" Roar stepped forward. Calm. Certain. "We found it," she said. "Every failsafe, every override, every backdoor." Victoria stared at the device. Then at Roar. Then at me. And that's when it hit her. For the first time. She wasn't in control. The smallest crack turned into something bigger. Not panic, but realization. "It's over," Roar said. Victoria didn't move. Didn't run. Didn't fight. She just stood there, processing the one thing she'd never planned for. Losing. I stepped forward one last time. Close enough now. Close enough to see everything. "You said it doesn't end," I told her quietly. She didn't answer. This is where it does. Her eyes met mine, and this time, there was no mask left, just emptiness, and something else, something buried deep, regret, not for what she did, but for what she lost. Agents moved in slowly, carefully, cuffing her, taking the device, securing the hallway, but she didn't resist, didn't say a word. As they led her past me, she stopped, just for a second, not looking at the agents, not looking at Roar, only at me. "You should have listened to him," she said quietly. "Harrow." A faint shake of her head. "Michael." And then she was gone. The hallway exhaled. Weapons lowered. Voices returned. The world started moving again. But I didn't. I stood there in that same spot, letting it all settle. Catherine. Michael. Victoria. All of it. Roar stepped beside me after a while. "It's done," she said. I nodded. Slowly. "Yeah." But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like ending something that should have never begun. Weeks passed. Then months. The network collapsed piece by piece. Names exposed. Arrests made. Systems dismantled. Harrow talked. Not everything, but enough. Enough to tear down what he built. Victoria never said much. Not in court. Not in custody. Silent. Controlled. Even at the end. I didn't visit her. I couldn't. Some things don't get closure. They just stop. I went back to the desert once. To the graves. The wind was the same. Quiet. Endless. I stood there for a long time. Not saying anything. Not asking anything. Just being there. Because that was all that was left to do. In the end. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about power. It was about a line. One that gets crossed slowly, quietly, until you don't even realize you're gone. Victoria crossed it. Harrow lived beyond it. And I almost lost everything trying to understand it. But I didn't. I'm still here. My name is Robert Sullivan. I'm 62 years old. And I survived the truth about my own family. Not because I was stronger. Not because I was smarter. But because, in the end, I chose to face it. And sometimes, that's the only thing that saves you.